In the summer of 1587, more than 100 English settlers stepped onto the sandy shores of Roanoke Island, just off the coast of what is now North Carolina. They had come with one purpose: to build a new life in the New World. Led by Governor John White, this group included men, women, and children, families hoping for opportunity, land, and a future. But what happened to them remains one of the oldest and strangest mysteries in American history. Because when help finally arrived, every man, woman, and child had vanished without a trace. The Roanoke expedition wasn't the first English attempt at settlement, but it was the most ambitious. The colony was meant to be permanent, a foothold in the Americas. The settlers built homes, planted crops, and tried to establish peace with local native tribes. But conditions were harsher than expected. Limited supplies, unpredictable weather, and growing tensions made survival difficult. After just a few weeks, the colony realized it needed more support. John White agreed to return to England for supplies. He expected to be gone for only a few months. But fate had other plans. When White reached England, a full-scale war had erupted with Spain. Every available ship was claimed for military use, including the ones White needed to return to his colony. What should have been a brief trip stretched into 3 long years. Imagine that, knowing your family and friends were stranded in a dangerous, unfamiliar world with dwindling resources and being unable to reach them. By the time White finally secured transport back to Roanoke in 1590, he must have been desperate, hopeful, and terrified all at once. But when he arrived, the settlement was completely abandoned. The houses had been dismantled, not destroyed. There were no signs of battle, no bodies, no clues of disease or starvation. It was as if the people simply walked away. The only message left behind was a single word carved into a wooden post, Croatoan, and nearby, carved into a tree, just the letters, CRO. It was the only hint the colonists had left for Governor White. Now, Croatoan, today known as Hatteras Island, was the home of a Native American tribe that had been friendly to the English. So this message could have been a relocation note, just as White had instructed before leaving. If anything happened, the settlers should carve a sign indicating where they went. But strangely, when White tried to search the island, a violent storm forced him back to sea. He never returned to Roanoke again. And the settlers, including White's own daughter and granddaughter, Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the Americas, were never seen again. So what happened to the lost colony? Over the centuries, historians, archaeologists, and investigators have proposed countless theories. One of the most logical is that the settlers integrated with local native tribes, the Croatoan or others farther inland, blending into their communities. Evidence, including artifacts and oral histories, hints that some Europeans may have lived with native groups long after the colony vanished. But without definitive proof, the theory remains unconfirmed. Another popular idea is that the settlers attempted to sail back to England on their own. They did have small boats, but crossing the Atlantic without supplies or navigational expertise would have been nearly impossible. Still, desperation can push people to incredible risks. Perhaps they tried and never made it out of the Outer Banks alive. Some researchers believe the colony may have split into multiple groups. With supplies shrinking and tensions rising, the community may have fractured, some heading toward Croatoan Island, others moving inland in search of more fertile land or friendly allies. Fragmentation like this was common in early colonial attempts. If the groups scattered, their disappearance becomes harder to trace. There's also the grim possibility of conflict. Relations between the English and certain tribes were strained, even violent. Some historians speculate there may have been an attack or forced relocation. But if warfare wiped out the colony, where are the remains? Why were the homes carefully dismantled instead of burned or destroyed? And why leave the mysterious carvings behind? Then, of course, there are more imaginative theories: alien abductions, supernatural vanishings, even the idea that the colonists were swallowed by the surrounding swamps. While these explanations are entertaining, they rely more on fantasy than historical evidence. Still, their existence shows how deeply the Roanoke mystery has embedded itself into American culture. A colony disappears, leaves one cryptic word behind and becomes a story we're still telling centuries later. In recent years, archaeological teams have uncovered new artifacts on both Roanoke Island and Hatteras Island. Pieces of pottery, European tools, and other items dating back to the late 1500s. These discoveries suggest some settlers may have survived longer than once believed. But no discovery has answered the ultimate question: where did the entire colony go? The Roanoke Colony disappearance is a reminder of how fragile early attempts at colonization were. These settlers faced hunger, disease, harsh weather, and unfamiliar landscapes. And yet, they took the risk anyway, because the promise of a new world was worth the danger. What happened to them may never be known with certainty, but their story lives on, carved into the historical record just like the word that puzzled John White more than 4 centuries ago. Croatoan. That if you enjoy exploring history's most mysterious disappearances and forgotten stories, make sure you subscribe for more deep dive videos just like this one. And if you want me to cover another early American mystery, drop your suggestion in the comments. I'm always listening.